Don't forget, at the beginning, it looked like Bruce Lee fighting in Way of the Dragon, or Billy Lowe. Then in the film, he gets shot in the face, so he's wearing this ridiculous beard and moustache, glasses all the time, bandage wrapped up. But obviously, by the end of the film, he looks exactly like Bruce with no scars on his face. It does make no sense. Hello. Welcome back. And, as always, I hope you're doing well. Right. Before I start, guys, I want to thank each and every one of you who commented on my last video when I got demonetised. Now, I know I'm a little bit late with this. I said I was going to get this done Sunday, Monday, but life gets in the way sometimes when you're doing this. So, but I have watched A Game of Death 3 times. And, yeah, I'll get to it. So, obviously, on the Arrow disc, you got the 4K international cut. Now, the picture is brilliant, but I didn't do a comparison to the Criterion. I just didn't want to put the Criterion one in, to be honest with you. But, you know, the picture does look good. A little bit grainy, but for a 1978 movie, it looked good. The colours were vibrant. They've done a very good job. There's obviously a Japanese cut on here as well, and the differences are very, very little. The Japanese cut is pretty much the same, except this version starts with like a different text box at the beginning, has a picture of Bruce in the corner, and obviously the Golden Harvest when it first starts. Also, the Japanese cut offers Bruce Lee's battle cries, you know, his "what?" Overused, in my opinion. Now, this is one thing that people that edit Bruce Lee's clips together, whether it be on the Game of Death, whatever, they overuse them. For reference, please just watch the opening fight of Enter the Dragon with Sammo Hung. Yes, they're there, but people overuse it so much it kind of drives me nuts. And I found the Japanese version overused them, but that's just me. Cut it down, guys. If you're going to edit these things, think about it. Watch Enter the Dragon as reference. That's what I would say. Also, on the Japanese cut, the Jihan J fight, the second fight before he gets to Kareem, he talks a little bit longer, and that had like hard-coded subtitles on the side, so it's just a little bit longer. But other than that, the Japanese cut and the international cut is pretty much the same film, and they're both in mono, and the mono sounded great. The dialogue was crisp and clear, and you can hear every single Chris Kent's "Why-ah!" We're going to get to that. So let's do the extras first, right? So the first extra is a brand new feature commentary by Brandon Bentley and Mike Leader. I think I'm going to comment on this a little later in the video, but I will comment on it. The song I'm singing tomorrow, a newly filmed interview with Colleen Camp. I didn't even recognise her, to be honest with you, but she's still quite busy. I remember Colleen Camp in the early 80s. I kind of liked her. There are tons of deleted and extended scenes. You've got the greenhouse fight, different openings, different endings. Just on the deleted scenes, there's a whole ton of those. And they were quite interesting, some of them. And a lot of these on the alternative versions of the Game of Death, which I'm debating whether to review or not. At the moment, I've had enough of watching Game of Death. There's archive interviews with Dan Inosanto, which I found really nice. I love Dan Inosanto. I really, really do. I do actually wonder why he went back to do the 78 version, because as we know, Kareem Abdul, Chuck Norris, all these people was just like, nah, we think it's a bit exploitative. Were they onto something? And obviously, Bob Wall, an archive interview done by Mike Leader, I think, for Shout Factory, and he don't have a lot of good words to say about Robert Clouse, the director.
The only reason it wasn't better was Bob Clouse. Asshole, idiot, bad director, jerk.
He does make me laugh. And he also says the locker fight, you know, the locker fight with Carl Miller and Billy Lowe. He said some of them scenes were real Bruce Lee.
And some of the clips in in Game of Death in the locker room were shot. Herbert Jerry. And so I can show you parts where it's really Bruce.
I'm not sure, Bob. to be honest with you. Totally respect Bob, love Bob, and appreciate that he was in Way of the Dragon, Enter the Dragon and Game of Death. Totally respect him. I actually love the way he talks, and the way he talks about Robert Clouse.
And the only reason he got this credit for being the director of Into the Dragon was Bruce Lee's genius, not his genius.
It's hilarious, but they're quite interesting. The Bob Wall one's quite a long one, the Dan's not as long, but both great archive interviews, but we have seen these before. Then you've got some behind the scenes footage, but we have seen this before in the documentary Bruce Lee the Legend, and rare production sales featurette from 1976 with new commentary by Michael Worth and Andre Morgan. What is quite interesting is some of the fight scene dailies directed by Sammo Hung with Kim Tao Chong, you know, the guy who plays Billy Lowe, Bruce Lee, fighting with his big sunglasses on, always in the shade. A locations featurette, and I think this was shot by Mike Leader. It isn't brilliant footage, but it's quite interesting to see some of the old locations used in the 78 Game of Death now. Then you've got your trailer gallery, all your different trailers, TV spots, radio spots. You've got another Bruceploitation reel and a Robert Clouse at Golden Harvest trailer reel, which includes Enter the Dragon, Battle Creek Brawl, or The Big Brawl, when I went to see it in 1980 at the cinema. I still think it's quite underrated, you know, but I know what they was trying to do, but it didn't quite work out as well. But I love Jackie Chan, and I do love the film, and I actually have the soundtrack on vinyl, done by Lalo Schifrin again. Great soundtrack. And China O'Brien with Cynthia Rothrock. So they're all quite nice extras. And then obviously you've got your image gallery, so posters, you know, video release and all that production stills. So it's jam-packed with extras, and it needs to be. Because let's talk about the movie. Let's talk about the good points. Right, obviously, the Bruce Lee footage at the end, the fight with Dan Inosanto, Jihan Jay and Kareem. Although, since the 2000 footage, or was it 98, got discovered, the 40-minute footage that we've all grown to love from Warrior's Journey, G.O.D., Redux, you name it, and now obviously the final Game of Death, they've trimmed it so bad. I mean, all 3 fights in total last 13 minutes, and they're butchered. And obviously you've got the Bruce Lee noises over the top drive me bonkers, to be honest with you. Because the only reason we all fell in love with Game of Death is for that last bit to see Bruce Lee. There are other good points about it, and I'll get to them, but let's be honest, the reason why we all love Game of Death is because we want to see them little bits of Bruce Lee. Now, back in 1982, when I had this on VHS, we only got the Jihan Jay fight and the Kareem. The whole Dan Inosanto, if my memory serves me right, I certainly know the Nunchaku fight weren't there. I'm pretty sure it was completely missing. Completely missing. So, unbelievable. And we sat through Game of Death just to watch whatever was left. That little bit of Bruce Lee. So, seeing Bruce, obviously, at the end of the film is a breath of fresh air, although the way he fights in this is completely different to all the Yuen-Bu flips and all the other fights that go in this movie. The continuity is all over the place, but anyway, more good points first. The opening credits. The opening credits to the John Barry score, which I'll get to in a second, look fantastic. The opening credits and the closing credits to Will This Be the Song I'll Be Singing Tomorrow, done by Colin Camp, they're great, but it's showing bits of Bruce. The opening credits to me look more like a Bond film than a Bruce Lee movie, if I'm honest. But kudos, you know, you can see they put a lot of work into them, and they do look great. And obviously, the John Barry score. It's a fantastic score. It's a little bit repetitive, but let's be honest, the opening theme is amazing, but it sounds like a Bond film. We associate it now because we've all watched it so many times. It's embedded to us. So as soon as we hear bum bum bum, we think of Bruce. That's what it's done. So it's not Into the Dragon, but it's still a solid score. Now there are 2 reasons why John Barry's done this, I've heard. One of them was he thought it might be interesting to do a Bruce Lee film. But the one that makes me laugh, and is probably the most popular one, is he didn't want to do it. So he put in a price so expensive he didn't think he'd get it, and he got the gig, so he thought, what the heck. But it is a solid score, and you can get the CD. I need to get the LP because it is worth having. Some of the Sammo Hung fight scenes are pretty decent. Some not so much, but certainly the locker fight with Bob Wall and Kim Tao-chung, you know, Billy Lowe and Cole Miller. It's a good fight scene, but there's no Bruce Lee in there. I'm convinced of that, apart from excerpts from Way of the Dragon. But it is a good fight scene with Yuen Biao doing all the flips, but it's not a Bruce Lee fight scene. And obviously Dean Jagger does make me laugh, where he's feeding the fish does crack me up.
You beautiful bastard.
But other than that, that's probably all the good points to the movie. Now the not so good points. I find this movie a little bit offensive now, to be honest with you. It's not a Bruce Lee movie. It's a disgraceful exploitation cash grab on Bruce Lee's good name. The plot is thin and poorly written by Clouse under a pseudonym. The continuity of the film is all over the place. Some of the effects, right from the beginning after the Chuck Norris fight, who by the way is credited starring in this film. Apparently Chuck sued him and they settled out of court because they just used clips from Way of the Dragon and then credited him in the film. The effects are some of the worst I've ever seen. Right from the get-go, when the light falls out after the Chuck Norris fight and he doesn't wipe his face with a towel, he just does this, and then he goes into his dressing room and Steiner stood there, Hugh O'Brien.
So you got in here finally.
That is so bad. And obviously the big boss face of Bruce stuck on the mirror. It's disgraceful. By the end of the film, they couldn't even be bothered to do it no more. They just showed Kim Tai-chung's face. Don't forget, at the beginning, it looked like Bruce Lee fighting in Way of the Dragon, or Billy Lowe. Then in the film, he gets shot in the face, so he's wearing this ridiculous beard and moustache, glasses all the time, bandage wrapped up. But obviously by the end of the film he looks exactly like Bruce with no scars on his face. It does make no sense. And the fact that they use Bruce Lee's real funeral and you actually see Bruce Lee's body, his dead face, in the coffin is absolutely disgraceful. Now I found it hard. I had to sit through this 3 times. Obviously I watched the international version, the one that we all loved in the old days I guess, but that's only because the payoff at the end, the little bit of Bruce that we'd never seen before. And obviously I watched the Japanese cut, which was a little bit better because it had Bruce Lee's battle cries, but like I said earlier, probably overused. For me, the most enjoyable viewing of the film was watching it with Mike Leader and Brandon Bentley's commentary, because pretty much Mike Leader, there's some interesting facts, they point out some interesting facts, but pretty much Mike Leader's taking the piss. He seems like a really funny guy actually, and Brandon Bentley's laughing. It's, you know, they're taking the piss out of the film really, and it's quite obvious why. The film's a mess. The storyline evolves around a syndicate of mobsters trying to screw over an actor. Game of Death, the 1978 version, does exactly the same thing to Bruce Lee's good name. Oh, the irony. Now Bruce Lee is played by 2 or 3. I think you've got Kim Tai-chung, Alan Chi-chung-san, and Yuen Biao, and obviously you've got Chris Kent as the voice. Gig Young is an Academy Award winning actor, and he was brilliant in the old days, but he does act well in it. He's a very natural actor, but he looks bored or drunk. It's not even it's so bad it's good kind of movie. It's just bad, worse than I thought it was. I have fond memories of Game of Death, but like I said, there's a reason why I haven't watched it in the last 15-20 years since the 2000s, when A Warrior's Journey was released. There's a good reason for it, but sitting down to study it and watch it properly to do a film review, it's awful. It's exploitative, really badly exploitative. And since we've all seen A Warrior's Journey, G.O.D., Redux, and obviously the masterpiece that is Arrow's documentary The Final Game of Death, this film has become irrelevant, and it is perhaps the worst of the Bruceploitation movies. In my opinion, Game of Death 1978 is not a tribute. It's not a tribute to Bruce Lee. It's a cash grab. It's a cash-in on Bruce Lee's name. It's probably the second highest grossing Bruce Lee movie, but let's be honest, it's pretty abysmal if you're honest. Game of Death, unfortunately, will always be tied to the Bruce Lee filmography. If it was up to me, I would like a box set of Big Boss, Fist of Fury, Way of the Dragon, Enter the Dragon, and the final Game of Death documentary. To me, that is a perfect Bruce Lee box set. But hey, this is what we've got. Now ask yourself this. What do you honestly think Bruce Lee would have thought of the Game of Death 1978? I'm pretty sure we know the answer. Apparently, Brandon Lee once said, Game of Death has 40 minutes of footage and the rest of it is just junk. I think I kind of agree with him. So, there you go, guys. That is my thoughts on Arrow's Game of Death Disc 6. Arrow have done a stellar job. The picture looks great, the colours look popping, the extras are bursting. And it needs to, because the film has dated really badly. And it's a shame. It's forever going to be tied to Bruce Lee's good name. But obviously, as fans, we can differentiate. We know it's a Robert Clouse movie. And that makes you raise the question. My favourite movie of all time is Enter the Dragon. Would it be what it was and what it is without Bruce Lee? I'll leave you with that thought. Right. And with that, I'm going to try and put all this together and get this out for Tuesday/Wednesday. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. And I hope if you're a fan of Game of Death, I didn't upset you too much, but they're just my views. I don't think I need to watch that film again, I don't think. If I want to listen to John Barry's amazing score, I'll dig out my CD. Or watch the Game of Death Redux by Alan Canvan, who incorporated the music back into the 40-minute or whatever he used footage. I don't think I need to sit through that again. It left a bit of a bad taste in my mouth. There are elements I can look back and laugh upon, but really when you think about it, it's so exploitative and it's just so disrespectful too. Bruce Lee was a perfectionist. From Way of the Dragon to Enter the Dragon, Bruce Lee done all the fight scene choreography. We knew what he was trying to achieve. It's just such a shame he didn't live to finish Game of Death. I think it would have been his masterpiece. But I guess we'll never know. Right, and with that, I'm going to love you and leave you. Have yourselves a fantastic week. Much love. Thank you for all the support. And I'll be back with another ramble real soon. Take care, people.